Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything.
Hey, Craig.
It's on you, it's all on me. Can't you see? It's on you, it's all on me. You and me, can't you? It's on you, it's on me.
Hey, Craig. Right or wrong, we don't care. Win or lose, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care.
Hey, Jeff. You know, we were hoping for 5-0 week after when we recorded our last podcast.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we got ourselves a 5-0 week from the women's and men's basketball teams.
Yeah, we did.
Super incredible. But there was also another important thing that happened today. And that's why we pushed back our recording today. It was signing day. So welcome to Podcast versus Everyone. I am Craig Powers. With me, as always, is Jeff Newser. This is episode 157, 2022, actual signing day episode. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about the class. Probably not going to talk about each guy individually, because if you listen to this podcast, we've talked about them as they've committed mostly.
And we all, I mean, we readily admit we don't know that much about most of these guys. We're not scouts. I'm the guy who famously said that Marquise Wilson needed a red shirt and clearly was not ready to immediately contribute. At which time he then went on to become the most productive freshman wide receiver in school history. And I ended up looking like an idiot, which is not, I mean, that's not unusual, but I also sort of learned my lesson that I am not a scout, and I will not be making bold predictions about who will and will not play. But we can speak to, like, you know, larger stuff.
Yeah, we can speak to trends and all that. So, they actually pulled together at this point a 23 man class. So they added quite a bit from the early signing period, where I think they were at 8.
Quite a bit in the last week.
In the last week, in the last couple weeks, really. Yeah, and so a lot of the high school commits came in the last couple weeks, and then, you know, everyone that had commitments from signed today, which is not honestly that common. I can't remember a signing day where that happened. Like, usually there's at least one or two guys that don't actually sign, but, you know, maybe the nature of the guy that they were getting at this point, WSU was almost certainly their best offer. So there wasn't a lot of drama in that regard. So Jeff, now that we have, so let's talk a little bit about these national rankings and Pac-12 rankings. From a just, if you're just talking about the high school recruits, WSU currently ranks 9th out of 12. If you look at overall, when you're including the transfers, they're in 9th as well. But the big difference is, you know, I think there's the only school that they actually, when you look at all the classes, all 12, the only school that they have a higher, actually they don't have a higher average rating than any of them.
Nope.
And so Jeff, with, you know, Arizona State only has 18 commits, they're below us. USC is only, you know, they're at 21. Washington's at 15, they're below us. So the three schools below us are Arizona State 18, Washington State 15, Oregon State 16. We know that quantity is always factored into these recruiting class rankings. Do you see WSU holding kind of a 9th ranking, or is it possible that UW, Oregon State, even Arizona State are not done? Because I mean, honestly, if you look at UW has already brought in a couple 4 stars. Arizona State's got a couple 4 stars. Of course, there could be some coaching stuff with Arizona State that could still torpedo their class. But where do you think they're ending up?
Yeah, I think that. So first off, the guys that they've added in the last couple weeks, as you mentioned, are guys that. They don't have better options, right? So, these are guys being added by Wazoo who, we're their only Power 5 offer. So not surprising that they're committing. The coaching staff seem to take a little bit of a perspective on this, like, hey, we're going to fill it out with bodies, people that we like, people that we think, have some potential, people that we know really well. The majority of the guys who have committed in the last couple of weeks are from Texas. A lot of them hold Incarnate Word offers, which is, not a stunner considering, our new offensive coordinator came from Incarnate Word, and he's obviously got a little bit of equity on that front, because Cameron Ward, turned out to be pretty awesome. So, maybe they are just really good at identifying talent. So rather than doing what, Arizona State, Washington, Oregon State seem to be doing, which is kind of waiting, slow playing a little bit, not taking the max number of guys. And, I would assume kind of keeping an eye on the transfer portal and trying to get transfer guys. WSU is pretty aggressive at adding, low end 3-star guys to fill out the class. And, I don't know that I can fault that. I mean, I think there's a pretty good chance this class ends up at the bottom of the Pac-12 when all is said and done. At least in terms of they're already at the bottom in terms of average rating. They're the only one that's under, 85, by 24/7's, composite metrics. So they are a full 3/4 of a point behind. I think Colorado's the next lowest.
Yep.
And that's actually quite a bit. That's actually a big amount. So, they're quite a ways behind, but they've obviously gone for some quantity here. They've taken some flyers on some people. They've got, I think, 4 or 5 guys that they're planning on switching positions from high school. So they just seem to be kind of saying, look, let's take some flyers on some guys. Let's try and find some diamonds here, maybe switch some positions on some guys, kind of see how that works out. We've kind of talked about this before. You can sustain one, pretty so-so recruiting class. Like that's not that, programs have, one bad year all the time. Who knows? I mean, I'm not saying this has to be a bad year, but by the metrics and, these 24/7 guys, tend to know what they're talking about. It's not a highly thought of group of kids. Okay, fine. If you have one of those, it's not the end of the world. It's when you start stacking 2-3 of them, then all of a sudden things get pretty dicey. So, there's nothing here that really worries me too much. I think there's, like I said, a pretty good chance they drop to the bottom once Arizona State, Washington, Oregon State get their, the rest of their class filled out. But again, that doesn't super concern me. I think they've got enough guys in there, and particularly the transfers. I think, especially obviously Cameron Ward, but then the 2 defensive guys from Nevada, Lee and Henley, I think are both immediate starters, and then Milani, I think, is fine. I don't know if he's an impact guy coming from Virginia, but I think he's fine. So it seems like they're just kind of throwing a lot of bodies to the pile and trying to figure out what maybe some of those guys can contribute. And I think
it helps with Milani too, as he's younger, so it's not.
Yes, yeah, he's got 3 years of eligibility left. Yeah. So, it doesn't stress me out. It's not great. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it's no problem. It's fine. These guys are great. I totally believe in this coaching staff to find, 25 amazing players that are all rated as low 3 stars. Like, I'm not buying that, but I'm also like, I don't know that this is that big of a deal if you worry about such things.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of guys that they obviously are hoping to build into something. You don't typically, like you said, guys like can surprise you, but there are not a lot of guys in the class that you'd expect to contribute, like make big contributions. The guys at the top like Dollar and Schlembecker, you could see those guys. In terms of the high school kids, you could see them, them making an impact. Obviously, like you said, 3 of the 4 transfers, Cameron Ward's going to start. Probably Lee and Henley are going to start. Yeah. So there's definitely with the transfers, they definitely filled some needs. In fairness, it's a very balanced class. We got kind of used to very unbalanced classes with Leach that were, mostly receivers and linemen. So, you see, a couple running backs, we need running backs because we're going to go back to a system where we have 2 running backs on the field at the same time. There's linebackers, there's safeties, there's defensive linemen, which we don't recruit that often. So there's some balance to the class. There's obviously a QB in there who we've already talked about. Go back a couple weeks if you want to hear us talk about him. But the Texas thing is what is most, it's good to have, an in Texas. If Morris has relationships with high school coaches in Texas, that's not a bad thing. And I can see it as a bridge that you wouldn't want to burn. Because if you can, you can get the kids that maybe if he had a shot in at Incarnate Word, they're probably going to go to like an FBS school on the low, like a Sun Belt or a Mountain West or something. But you can now pull them in at WSU. But maybe if you keep those relationships going, you can go back to Texas, which Texas is a great place to recruit. There's obviously a lot of competition there, but there's also a lot of players. Right now there's a lot of competition in California, and that's where we get a bunch of our guys from. So maintaining those relationships, bringing in kids. And honestly, I mean, these kids, a lot of, not necessarily all of them, but a lot of them, there's like 6A kids and stuff. They've played against some good players. So there's a chance that, it goes both ways. Sometimes I always think of my cartoon, like just playing with other guys, people, if you play well with them, like Hartoon played against Kevin Love and, people thought, or with Kevin Love, was it? I can't remember. And he kind of had a standout game, so all the scouts saw him, and he became like a 4-star recruit. But we know very well that he was not that.
He was not that guy.
So there's a chance that some of these kids just get seen so much they might be elevated. But there's also they might be seen so much and they don't stand out because there's so many talented kids at some of these Texas schools. So maybe you are finding those diamonds in the rough. So there's hope for that. And I can't think of a class where we had 7 kids from Texas. Yeah. Just directly from, and then I mean Cam Ward is not from Texas, but he transferred from a Texas school, and so
he's from Texas. He is from Texas.
Yeah, that's right. He is from Texas. So a bunch of Texas kids. So they better, obviously with like the, some of the Hawaiian coaching staff, the Grey W Club had to bring in some different recipes, some Hawaiian recipes. Now they're going to have to bring in some Texas recipes. I hope
there's going to be some smoked brisket.
Yeah, I hope they have a Traeger or something.
yeah, some sausages. They're going to be all about that. Yeah, the Texas thing is kind of wild. Like that was one of the things I noticed. Obviously they were bringing in a bunch of Texas kids who had connections to Morris's staff down there, Incarnate Word, whatever. Okay, that's fine. But then it was just sort of like and then I think 5 of the 7 kids or 8 kids who signed today were from Texas. So it was like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing this. What's going to be curious to me is, is this just a matter of circumstance, or is this a thing that they really want to do going forward? And so, like, circumstance wise, like, okay, you need to fill out the class. You've had a coaching change. Who are some guys we can add to the class who we've already scouted, right? We're not starting trying to develop relationships right now. Who are some guys we already have relationships with that we really think could develop? Okay, so then those are the guys that that you go get. So is this circumstance, or is this really legitimately like, okay, we have made and we are going to make some inroads to really land legitimate Texas talent and get them up here? So I am curious about that. I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical to some degree that that it can be a legitimate talent pipeline, for lack of a better term, right? Everybody says pipeline. Just because in Texas, so it's a little bit different than Southern California, right? So like when we would recruit Southern California, super heavy, it was like, okay, so I mean, there's UCLA, there's USC, and then it's kind of like, obviously, San Diego State's in the vicinity, and
Cal and Stanford and Arizona right? State too.
But Cal and Stanford might as well be in another state. They're far enough away, and then Arizona and Arizona State again, another state. It's not like they're all kind of
Jeff, do I need to give you a Texas geography lesson too?
Yes, I mean I know Texas is huge, but I just mean like even if you just look in the Dallas Houston area. I mean Dallas and Houston are obviously not like right next to each other, but they're reasonably close, and it's like. You look at what's all in that area, and you start going, you got Texas is in Austin, you got Texas A&M out in College Station, you got now you got Houston is heading to the Big 12, you got SMU, it's just like there are so many, and then you've still got all the sort of smaller schools, you got Texas San Antonio, you got it's just so I just mean it like there are so many programs. Obviously, I'm not talking like, way out in West Texas or anything like that. But, I mean, there are so many programs in that, Houston and Dallas-Fort Worth area. And it's like, here, you look at California, you've got a few, right? And then, Cal and Stanford. And then the other thing is Cal and Stanford are just they're kind of their own unique entities, right? Because it's like, Stanford, they don't even really recruit California. Because they sort of have to cast a bigger net for what they want to do. Cal, to some degree, I think is true in that way also. So anyway, that's all to say, kids in Texas have a lot of options for what they want to do. And I'm not convinced that, you're going to be able to reliably get, high-level kids or even just those, high-level but slightly under the radar kids out of Texas the same way you might get the way we used to get out of California. So I'm curious to see how that develops.
Yeah, and I think one thing that they have to say about this class is that Dickert's only been the head coach since midway through the season. Yep. There wasn't many recruits committed.
Nope.
When he took over. This coaching staff hasn't even been fully put together until last week. So, they were hired, December on. So they haven't had a lot of time to work. And so it's hard to evaluate, fully their kind of recruiting capability based on that. But the bummer is we've now done this a couple times out of, a couple times out of 3 recruiting classes, right? Because we just had, we had the same thing happen with Rollo where we were saying the same stuff. Like, well, they didn't have a lot of time to recruit, well, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Of course, there were a lot more guys committed from Leach to Rollo than there was from Rollo to Dickert. So it's interesting. We'll see what they can do, in Texas, like you said, and just overall, going forward with a full year of recruiting, a full recruiting cycle, with these kids. So it's it's hard to, like you said, it's, you can have one off recruiting class. And it's honestly not as impactful as it used to be with the transfer portal. It's not as you're like, if you recruit this kid and he doesn't work out, he'll probably leave. And then there's going to be other kids who left their schools that you can go get. Yep. So it's hard to even look at these kids and see like a 5-year kid as much anymore. And so that's another part that makes me, like, okay, this is our recruiting class. But yeah, like, how many of these kids are going to make it to year 3?
Yep.
And to that point, we, as of today, just had a promising freshman wide receiver enter the transfer portal.
I know, such a bummer.
So Joey Hobart, son of famous Billy Joe Hobart, formerly at Apologist Coug on Twitter, which is no longer a Twitter account.
Apparently no longer active.
Yeah. So Joey Hobart is entering the transfer portal, which is another hit to a position that has taken quite a few hits in the last couple years. And he seemed like he was really going to be, I would say, like a 40 to 50 catch guy next year, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, it's, we know the air raid uses lots of receivers. 2 guys will rotate through at all positions. I assume Eric Morris does the same thing. So presumably there were going to be, even if you figure the fact Renard Bell's coming back, Lincoln Victor, had a hell of a season. So, you assume those are probably your 2 starters. But you figure Hobart's going to get lots of catches. So, I can only assume this has to do with something other than, who's catching the ball. Because it's not like we've brought in, wide receiver transfers who are going to take away, potentially take away snaps. I mean, that's the one thing, when you were talking about the class overall, wide receiver is the position that's like glaringly not there. There are 2 guys in the class who are, who have been evaluated as wide receivers, but they're not going to play wide receiver at Wazoo. Mm-hmm. So, so there are right now 0 guys in the class slated for wide receiver, which is, again, very odd, especially as we were talking about, what Mike Leach used to do. So, we can assume that they're going to bring guys in, but there's nobody there that would make you think, oh, wow, Hobart, thinks he's getting squeezed. So I can only assume that it's related to something that's not necessarily on field. And, I don't know. Somebody in our Slack said, maybe I think it was Nate, maybe he's tired of the snow. Like it's entire, I don't know, man. He lived his whole life in California. Who knows? I have no idea. It could be any of that. So.
Yeah. And obviously, when coaching staffs change, his offensive coaches are completely gone.
Yep.
So, that could have an impact. We've had some guys already leave, since the staff changed over. So, maybe some guys just take longer to think about it. Maybe they meet the coaches, they look at the, what they're going to do, and they're just like, listen, this is not for me. So yeah, it's a bummer. He looked like he was going to be a good player.
For he looked explosive, man.
Yeah, there was explosion there. That touchdown against Oregon State in particular, you think about, he looked like he could be a very good inside receiver, in the air raid in particular. Just looked like that fucking mold, man. that inside receiver air raid mold.
Yeah, God, you picture him running that River Craycraft Y cross, just all day long, catching that pass in stride, heading upfield and across, and you're just like, oh yeah, and then, so I don't know. I mean, I'm not worried about it, but I'm also like, yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Yeah, they're gonna have to, as you mentioned last week, I think it was last week, they can actually take more than 25 guys. They can take 35 guys with
32.
transfers. 32.
So they've still got 9 spots
left. Still have 9 spots. They can still go get transfer guys. I kind of hope they do.
I mean, I would assume they're going to.
Yeah, especially, there's definitely, they don't have the depth at wide receiver right now to rotate like an air raid typically does.
No, they don't. I do wonder if there's going to be like a second wave of transfers like around or after spring practice time. Everybody goes and they go into spring practice and, early signees show up, transfers show up, and then there's sort of a reshuffling of, of the pecking order, and then all of a sudden people, sort of exploring their options after that. I am curious at which point, maybe they've already got, a whole bunch of guys they've targeted who, they're trying to bring in as we speak. I don't know. But like I said, I kind of tend to think like, none of us really knows like how it's all going to play out. Cause even though obviously people have been transferring forever and the portal's been a thing for, a few years, it's still like it's the first time of, really the first time of guys, being able to transfer without penalty of sitting out. And, I don't think we quite know the full extent of
NIL
of that. Yep.
As well.
Yep.
If I don't know if there's like tampering involved, like, hey, there's obviously going to happen, but if you come on over to our place, we're offering this. But it's going to be interesting. There's going into this season, I would like to see a few more older guys added to the roster at different positions, to feel a little bit better about not taking a big step back. But of course, it may just be a challenge because they're going to be playing a new offense and all that. But at least we got a guy that's ran the offense before. The biggest thing, if we're looking at the recruiting class overall, is that they got a good quarterback who can run the offense. Like that. Yep. That's at WSU. There is nothing more important at WSU than that. That's like, he can run Eric Morris's air raid. We know this. He is very high thought of, not just by Coug fans or Incarnate Word fans, but like just objectively, all the praise that I've seen on him as a potential next level player as well has me quite excited. And if you can score points, you can. And honestly, think the defense was better than we thought they were going to be this year. Yep. I have hope that they're going to be decent again. And so if you can score points, we can be that 6 to 8 win team again, which right now, as in all these transitions, is where you kind of hope they can be. When
I'll take it
with coaches, 2 coaching changes in 3 years, and 2 coaching changes in 3 years, 3 different coaches in 4 years. So it's I can't get excited or disappointed or too much either way, except for the fact that I'm excited to watch Cameron Ward play when I'm talking about this recruiting class. That's the deep analysis you're getting from me.
Yeah. If we can ride this out to another bowl game, I feel great. So, and I think like you said, the defense being better than we expected, I think is huge. That was sort of the foundation of my pessimistic viewpoint on the year. I was just kind of like, I think the offense will still be pretty good, but is the defense really going to make that big of a step forward? And as it turned out, they made a huge one. So you go, okay, well, not that they'll necessarily make that kind of a huge leap next year, but it makes you feel confident that the defense will at least be able to maintain, right? And so that sort of puts a different a different spin on it. You feel like, okay, the quarterback, you got your trigger man, you got your quarterback, for the offense. Like, I just think you feel like, yeah, you're in pretty good shape to still be pretty good. Like, I don't think you can look at the roster and think that we're going to be a lot worse. Like, I mean, you can go, okay, and obviously the massive question mark's the offensive line. Like I absolutely will say that. But, everything else you go, well, okay, so running back, I guess, like, but how important is running back? It's, probably less important now than it was before. Okay. And then you look at wide receiver and you go, well, I feel great. Stribling and Ollie, I feel good about those. I feel good about Bell and Lincoln Victor. I feel great about that set of four. And then you look at the defense, you go, well, okay, yeah, you're losing, Jalen Watson, and that really sucks. But, at the same time, you've loaded up on transfers, you're replacing your linebackers. Okay. But again, you got to transfer, and then you also have, Travion Brown, who you feel like, all right, hopefully he's ready to finally, step in and really play a lot. I think you just feel good about the team, and you're like, yeah, you can't, it's not too tough to see, how the team is at least as good as it was this year. You don't feel pessimistic. You don't feel like they're about to fall off a cliff. And so that's a fun feeling, I think.
Yeah. And, we'll really see what the staff can do in recruiting. It's a pretty, they seem like pretty solid staff that he's put together, has exceeded my expectations, but, we'll see what they can do in recruiting over the next year and obviously in these next couple months, because they could add more guys. See how Kook's first NIL impacts things too in the transfer portal. Maybe that helps us get some guys too. So, we'll see. But yeah, I think, Jeff, just for transition's sake, we'll take a quick break and then we'll come back and talk hoops.
Let's do it. Back.
Okay, before we talk hoops, let's talk about beer.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I saw your beer, and I saw it. I was actually going to text you about it, and I didn't earlier today because I saw it pop up on one of the beer bars I follow. So yeah, what are you drinking, Jeff?
So I am drinking a beer called Fuck 2021 as well by Abomination. I loved it. So when I was at Rainer Growlers, shopping for some beer, and I saw this, and actually what sort of caught my attention was a good can design is always a winner, right? Always a crowd pleaser. And so this can's got a guy, a skeleton sitting there, and he's got a shovel, like he dug a grave or something. And there's all these gravestones, and one of them says 2020, and then you turn a little farther, there's another gravestone that says 2021, and then you turn a little farther, and that's where it says fuck 2021 as well. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta buy that. That's some excellent bit of marketing there. I love it. So, I did buy a beer that has the F word in it, and that's always a crowd pleaser. So, it's beyond that, like the thing that was like, yeah, like I'm totally buying that was, it's a triple dry hopped double IPA. So being, triple dry hopped, you get, now correct me if I'm wrong, but this has been my experience, tends to be a little more bitter. And you just get, like pretty intense hop flavors, and that is like right up my alley. And this beer did not disappoint. It's delicious. So yeah, I'm loving it.
So I don't mean to actually though, but I'm going to.
Okay, good. I want to be well actually.
So dry hopping does not impact bitterness.
Really?
Early hop additions at the start of the boil impact bitterness.
Okay. All right.
So dry hop additions are typically aroma driven. That's going to drive a lot of the aroma, which also impacts taste, of course. So a triple dry hop would be 3 different times while the beer is fermenting. They add in a bunch of dry hops and then let them soak and then take them out and then add more in and take them out and add more in. So the bitterness actually comes from an early hop addition in the boil. So, in the first, kind of at the start of the boil. And so what you see with a lot of these like hazy IPAs is they actually don't even put hops in at the start of the boil. And so that's when you see those beers that have bitterness. And those are usually almost exclusively dry hopped or late hop additions. So yes, I don't mean to correct you. I just mean to teach you, Jeff.
No, I want to know. I love learning, man. I dig it. I'm totally down with that. At any rate, it's a delicious beer. So I'm very pleased that I have purchased it.
Very good. Is it hazy?
I'm drinking it.
Or is it?
It definitely is. Yeah. No, it's very hazy. Yeah.
Abomination's interesting. They're distributed by 12%, which is like a craft beer distributor, which I thought went out of business, but that's what when I go to their website, that's what they say. Maybe the 12% came back. Or I might be thinking of a different one. That's why once you get, and 12% is kind of based around in Connecticut where they are. So if you get hooked on with them, they distribute it nationally. And I think that's why we get these Abomination beers out here. Because they're a distributor. Because I always find that interesting. Because they were like pretty new, and then we had already seen them like in around here, and they have pretty. I mean,
they're out of Connecticut, so
yeah.
They are North Haven, Yale. There are a bunch of Yaleys up there.
Yeah, So it's but their cans are very and Yale's in New Haven, by the way. But
that's what I said. This is in New Haven.
North Haven.
It's North Haven. Oh, damn it! Is North Haven near New Haven?
I don't know.
You were kind of in that area, like.
Yeah, like just like you're kind of in the area of Idaho. Can you name all the Idaho towns?
I mean, I know some. There's a few. I mean, I covered some 8-man football in Idaho when I was. So
North Haven is quite close to New Haven. It's not it's not a suburb of it. It's like a small town that's about up in the woods. It looks like it's about maybe 60 miles away or something.
So wait, so now I want to know like which town came first. Was it like North Haven first, and then there were a bunch of people up there who were like, "Fuck this place," and they went and like settled New Haven? Or was it like New Haven first because New Haven was the new version of the British one, and then those people were like, "Fuck this place," and they went and moved north and went, "We're starting North Haven." I gotta know. I gotta know the answers to this.
I think that your second one is right.
It's probably more likely.
But who knows? Maybe trying to look it up. New Haven was founded in 1701. North Haven is in the same county, population 24,000, much smaller town. It wasn't even incorporated until 1786, so much
so definitely an offshoot.
Newer. That's like they didn't even come about until after the Revolutionary War. What the hell kind of New England town are you? Like, do you even count as a town if you didn't exist before the Revolutionary War? Like, that's embarrassing. No. Like, I must be embarrassed.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah,
this has been Geography Talk.
North Haven, New Haven, different place to live. One more.
They do have a historical society, though. I see that.
One more tidbit from Wikipedia. If you're looking to move there, in July 2007, Money Magazine ranked North Haven as the 86th best place to live in the United States.
Woo! Print the shirts. Print the shirts. 86th best place to live. Quinnipiac is close. Now I figured that out. Okay. Right? Quinnipiac. They're a MEAC school, right? I think. I don't know. You probably previewed them once upon a time.
They're not a MEAC.
Or a MAC? A MAC.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
MAAC.
the MAC.
MAAC.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of.
So I was wrong. It's only like 10 miles away from New Haven. I had the legend on my map was messed up. I thought these things were farther apart. Then I forgot I was looking at Connecticut, which is very small. So yeah, that's very close. They're only 12 minutes apart from New Haven to North Haven. So you were pretty much right, Jeff. You know, it's just a
pretty much.
Town, but, you know, it's in the area.
It's close enough.
So yeah, think of all these people. Everyone's learned so much about Connecticut geography today.
This is geography talk, man.
And dry hopping and everything.
Yeah. We exist to serve and to educate. So, you know, staying true to our mission.
Absolutely.
I spend all day teaching. I can't, you can't just turn that shit off. You know what
We're lifelong learners.
Yeah. Reflective and, thinking about our practice and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, what are you drinking? Probably something tasty.
So I'm drinking barrel aged as time goes by from Old Irving Brewing Company in Chicago, Illinois, which is in Chicago. It's not in North Chicago or South Chicago. It's in the city of Chicago. And it is a barrel-aged Belgian quad, aged in J. Henry & Sons bourbon barrels. I don't know
who they are, but they sound awesome.
not a bourbonry that I'm. That's a Wisconsin bourbon maker. So maybe we can have some. When I go out for the Wisconsin game, I can have some J. Henry & Sons bourbon. I'll have to be on the lookout for that. Probably can get it here too. Seems like, bourbon, if you make it, send it everywhere. This is aged in those bourbon barrels for 11 months, and it is pretty tasty. It's 10%, but it has a nice body. The thing happens when you barrel age a quad. It's a big, hefty, malty beer, similar, in some ways to a barley wine, except for the yeast that is used. But then when you barrel age them, a barrel aged quad and a barrel aged barley wine are just kind of like close, like first cousins. They are very similar, and that is why I typically, if I see a Belgian quad barrel age, I'll get it. Just to try it because I like barrel-aged barley wines a lot, and so it's even got the color. It's got the kind of ruby-ish color that a quad will have, brown ruby color. But man, it's got like great kind of vanilla character from the barrel, and it's super tasty. And it has for 10%. It probably drinks a little thicker than that even like. So it holds up to the barrel really well. Very tasty stuff. Barrel aged as time goes by. Old Irving Brewing in Chicago. We love Chicago. Shout out Emma.
Hi Emma.
And Sierra, but she doesn't listen to this. And Emma's roommates, hi. They seem to know all about us as well. So shout out to Emma's roommates, Sierra, and the other ones. I'm sorry I don't remember the names off the top of my head.
I don't know all your names.
I'm not even 100% sure that Sierra lives with Emma. I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay. Emma's going to yell at me. But yeah, so, hey, I'm very excited to talk about basketball this week. All told, 5 basketball wins. We will start with really just a redemptive week all around for our hoops teams. And we will start with the men's team. They hosted the Mountain Schools, and they beat the living shit out of them, and it was fantastic.
Yes, it was. Oh, my God, that felt so good. So good.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about losing close games if you just never let the game get close.
That's the whole point. Don't let it get close, and then you don't have to worry about it. You can't get unlucky if you win by 30 points, you know?
Yeah, so start off with the Utah game on Wednesday. God, I hate those Wednesday, Sunday. Like it's
Yes. Oh, it's bizarre.
I'm sure it's probably nice for the players, but maybe it's not. I don't know. Like it's weird. I guess players are on the road for longer. That might suck.
Yeah. Cal Smith did say he prefers Thursday, Saturday.
Yeah.
And like he was like, I prefer it. You know, you just kind of like do the two games and, you know, it's not, you know, stretching out the week and all the, you know, he said he thinks the players prefer it too. So for whatever that's worth.
And it's just like from a, you know, fan attendance perspective, you got a middle of the week game and a Sunday night game. Like the attendance, you know, showed that. So, but hopefully maybe they can build some fan excitement with, you know, the way they played this weekend. So impressions from Utah, they just, you know, they cut down on turnovers from the first matchup. I mean, obviously they beat Utah by a bunch the first time too, but the first time against Utah, they shot 40% from three. They hit 12 of 30. This time they only hit 8 of 31, but they just dominated everything else.
Yep.
You know, Utah didn't get all the free throws that they had in the first game, which kept them alive. But the glass, man, that you love to see them dominate the glass like that. Like 44% offensive rebounding percentage, holding Utah to half that, 22%. That's what you want. That's shot volume. That's what we love.
Yep.
Shot volume.
Yep. That's, I mean, they, you know, and we'll talk about Colorado, you know, in a sec, but, you know, in those two games, they just outclassed both Utah and Colorado. Like it wasn't just a, you know, you know, we played at home this time. We lost on the road last time. Well, I guess we beat Utah on the road last time, but you know what I mean. Lost to Colorado. You know, and even that game against Utah, you know, I think we won by double digits the first game. But, you know, I mean, it was kind of nip and tuck there in the second half, and then we kind of pulled away. This one was just like, I mean, anybody who watched these two games, you'd go, well, you know, this team is much better than those two teams. And, you know, I think that's what we want to see. Like they're kind of, you know, they're putting it together, man. Like I wrote a thing a couple weeks ago where I was like, yeah, they are absolutely as talented as we thought. They're just not yet as good as we thought, you know, because of whatever reasons you want to point to, whether it's, you know, the disrupted practice time or inexperience or having, you know, two new ball dominant guards, you know, whatever it is, whatever you want to blame it on. They just, you know, it wasn't quite clicking yet. Well, you know, I mean, this, you know, this looked like a team clicking, man. They look like a team that's, you know, maybe potentially ready to go on a run. Now, some of that might be, you know, playing at home. I mean, they're getting ready to embark on a pretty epic run of road games against some pretty epic competition. So I guess we're going to find out. You know, Kyle Smith on his coach's show last night said, you know, we're going to find out how good we are. And that is absolutely true. But, you know, for a weekend, man, that, you know, that Utah game that, you know, he said shot volume, you know, turning them over and rebounding and just, you know, just kind of playing their game and doing what they do. I mean, Utah was really, you know, I mean, they kind of maintained contact for a while, but, you know, really it was pretty thorough domination for the most part.
Yeah, so WSU dominated the middle 20 minutes of the game, you know, the end of the first half, start of the second half. That's really, they created separation and then kind of coasted to the victory at the end. You know, when I'm talking about shot volume, so WSU put up 34 twos and 31 threes. So they took 65 shots and 16 free throws. Helps when you make 15 of those, by the way. And then Bamba going 5 for 5. That's great. And then Utah took 26 twos, 23s, and 14. So they only had 46 field goal attempts. WSU had 65 and 2 more free throw attempts. That's because we've talked about shot volume before. WSU 9 fewer turnovers and 12 more offensive rebounds. That's how you shoot 19 more shots and 2 more free throws than the other team.
Yeah. We were only 47% on twos and 26% on threes, and yet almost 1.1 points per possession.
Yep. And so that's that. There's different ways to skin that cat, and this is kind of a more sustainable way, is being good at offensive rebounding and being good at turning the other team over and protecting the ball yourself. Those are things that are kind of more in your control sometimes than shooting. Shooting can be, obviously we shot 12 of 30 the first time against Utah, and then 8 of 31 this time. Michael Flowers, so we'll talk about what he did against Colorado, went 1 of 8 from 3 in this game. And they won. Michael Flowers went 5 points on 10 shots. That's all he did. And WSU won handily against a Pac-12 opponent because they were obliterating Utah on the glass, even when Carlson was in and playing, just obliterating them on the glass and turning them over. 29% turnover rate for Utah, because this was, it's kind of this team, for a while I thought it was like the teams they were playing, but this is kind of a slower paced team at this point. The WSU is not an up and down team, despite the athletes they have on the team. They're just, they're focused on defense. I think they might be in the mode of saving some energy on offense a little bit sometimes to make sure that defense works. And then, and they even, the crazy thing is how much they crash the glass. They're sending in usually 3 guys to the offensive glass, but they're still not giving up a lot of transition buckets, which is good to see. But yeah, the shot volume always makes me happy. Big believer in shot volume. And when you outshoot, when you get 19 more field goal attempts than the other team and still have more free throw attempts, that's a very good thing. Even when you don't shoot well, you still have a good offensive day.
Yeah. It's hard to do much better than that, man. It's even when you don't shoot well, and that's kind of I think you alluded to that, the magic of it. When you don't shoot well, you still have the opportunity to put up a good offensive performance, and that's exactly what you got there.
And we got to talk about the KenPom MVP of that game was Andrei Yakimovsky. And
yes, it was
15 points, 6 defensive boards, 2 offensive rebounds. 15 points on 12 shots.
1 block, 2 steals, no
1
turnovers.
block, 2 steals. Those 1 block, 2 steals, and those defensive rebounds, man. This dude is turning into a defensive player. Let's talk about this Colorado game, which was some of the most fun I've had watching a WSU basketball team in a long time.
The text I sent to my friend was, "This is basketball porn."
Yeah.
It's just like, this is so great.
Well, and
this is so great.
And Smith made the point in his post-game presser, is like, yeah, they were down a couple guys, and they were down 2 key starter rotation players. But WSU is down, Deshaun for a long time. He's a 40% minute guy. They were down TJ Bamba in this game, who was a starter. So it's not like they weren't without their players. But they still had Evan Batty and Jabari Walker. But they just, it was so nice to not be annoyed by Evan Batty. Honestly, he had just an awful game. He sucked. He did get some offensive rebounds. I was stunned
by how little he was involved. I expected, I don't know, the way they turned the game around against us down there was by just him and Jabari Walker just asserting themselves, right? They're like, you know what? We're just going to attack and we're going to go right at you and we are going to be physical and aggressive. And, just like basically it was just, it was really just sort of mindset driven. It wasn't anything special they were doing. They were just, getting the ball and going to work. And it was noticeably weird to me how little those two guys did that in this game. Now I know some of it was, WSU went zone this time again, and it was much, much better than last time. So that was part of it.
Yeah.
But also just, Batty especially just looked really passive, And I'm just like you annihilated us last time. Like, what are you doing? Like, at some point you just have to take some shots, right? But he didn't. And, I don't know, man. Colorado looked like they did not want to be there, which is weird. They just looked like they were, and maybe it's the Wednesday, Sunday thing. Maybe they, truly were just ready to go home. Like, I really don't know. But they really did look like they were just like, you know what? Can we just get this over with? Fly back to Colorado and just, start over. Cause this is, we're not enjoying this. I don't know, man, whatever it was fun as hell to watch. Cause, they were absolutely, the Cougs were dominant, from start to finish. Really no lulls, really no down. Honestly, maybe there was a little bit of a lull down the stretch, but, also the referees blew about, 3 different calls that should have gone our way. And Kyle Smith was working the officials and they're just like, man, what do you want? You're winning by 30 points. Why are you getting on us? Like, it's like, well,
because we've blown leads, man. We've blown,
and these guys are, leads. Guys are in there trying to play, DeWolf's in there trying to play, Ryan Rapp's in there trying to play. These guys want to play. So, I think that, Utah even got some gifts to get it as close as 27.
Colorado, yeah.
So, or Colorado.
Yeah. But, and then I talked about shot volume for the last game, but this game, no shot volume needed. They actually shot less than Colorado. But they did win the rebounding percentages battle for sure. They were 45% on offensive glass. They had less offensive this is why we talk about percentages. Because they had fewer offensive rebounds than Colorado. Colorado had 14. Colorado missed a lot more fucking shots. So Colorado missed 40 shots, and WSU only missed 30 shots. So that's when you look at it that way. Well, yeah. So there was 30 defensive rebounding opportunities for Colorado, and there was 40 for WSU. I'm sorry. Am I saying that right? Yeah, 40 for WSU. But WSU, in their 30 opportunities to get an offensive rebound, got 13. Colorado, in their 40 opportunities to get a offensive rebound, only got 14. So they had 10 more opportunities, only got one more offensive rebound. And that's why WSU's percentage is much better, 45% versus 35%. So you always you look at those offensive rebounding percentages, or you can look at the defensive rebounding percentages, whatever you want to look at. I like to look at offensive rebounding percentages because we're a good offensive rebounding team. It's more fun.
Yeah.
But to see WSU, they're at 45%. The other team's at 35%. That's good. You have the advantage in rebounding. That's why, total rebounds can be deceiving at times because a team is almost always going to, the defense is going to have the advantage on defensive rebounding opportunities. So if the other team's missing a bunch, they're going to rack up defensive rebounds, even if they're not getting a good percentage of them. But here they were able to get a good percentage of their own misses, which kind of mitigated some of the, lower than normal, which I think you can attribute to that zone that they played quite a bit more than they have this season.
Yep.
That's where Batty got his, 5 boards. And honestly, Batty is a very talented offensive rebounder too. But it's, FA had 7 of those 13. Like, he was just causing havoc on the offensive glass.
Yep.
Flowers,
one of his better games in a while.
And then after not shooting well on Wednesday, Sunday night, they came out and shot the freaking lights out. 56% on 2s, 43% on 3s. When you're playing, that's how you go 1.15 points per possession and turn the ball over 28% of the time.
I know. They turned the ball over 17 damn times and still scored 1.15.
I think I look.
Which is crazy.
Splits on that. Like I feel like they started getting a little careless once they got a big
Yes.
lead. Like they were definitely.
I think that's true.
They were definitely trying to make some fun plays at times.
Yes.
But they still held the foot down while doing that, which because they were so dominant on defense. Colorado was 10 of 38 on twos, 26% on twos. That's just. And then when the refs aren't calling every goddamn foul in the world, that helps.
Yeah,
no one was in foul trouble. Gay still
only
somehow
13,
got.
We only committed
Gay
13 fouls in the whole game.
Gay was somehow still in foul trouble. When the refs only called 24 total fouls, and Gay got 4 of them between both teams.
Still only played 17 minutes.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. FA played 25, so.
No one played. Only Andre played over 30 because he's still kind of in that. But again, for him, 14 and 10. So he had a 15 and 8 and a 14 and 10 this weekend.
So much of it for him is that positional versatility, right? I mean, he can play, that 4-5 or sorry, the 3-4 spot, kind of swing back and forth and give you great minutes in both of those spots. So,
and as we talked about,
go ahead.
Yeah, he's now 20% plus defensive rebounding percentage and fifth, which is fifth overall in Pac-12 play. He's just turned into, and then he's stealing the ball, he's blocking shots. Yeah, he's just turned into a great defensive player, and then he's just burying shots that he didn't hit last year.
Yeah, I mean, he is right now. It seems like every year with Kyle Smith, we have a guy who just sort of like figures it out, halfway through the season, and all of a sudden becomes, really strong, really valuable, and starts playing, just a lot better and becomes a guy you can sort of rely on. I would say, last year, Isaac Bonton, I think, fit into that category. He didn't have a great start to the year, and then all of a sudden he kind of got rolling and became a huge difference maker. To me, Yakimovsky's that guy this year. I mean, he has turned into a guy who is a legitimate piece. And when you think of him being, so close to leaving, it's like, wow, you just kind of think about what was gone. Now, if they had Kim Aiken Jr., who knows? Maybe Kim Aiken Jr. is so great that we go, we lost Yakimovsky, but that's fine. But he's not here. Yakimovsky is, and Yakimovsky is, turning into honestly a great player. And, I had huge hopes for him when they signed him. Obviously, he was a really highly rated and regarded recruit. I always thought that he was, had the potential to be a pretty devastating scorer. He's really, really good right now, and that's without being a devastating scorer. Now, he's a good scorer. He's a really good shooter. As we've talked about, the 2-point percentage has become something that is actually, good, right? Like, so he went from last year, I think he made 30%? I think on his twos last year.
Even. Yeah.
29%, something like that.
Yeah, 20. And, just round up to 30. We'll round him up to 30.
Okay, so 30%. Well, this year he's making 60%, and
49%, 48% this year.
Oh, sorry. All right, I must have been looking at something else. Anyway, he's made a huge improvement there. He's
48% is much more acceptable.
Yes,
it doesn't torpedo your efficiency.
Yes, you can take. I mean, you'd like it to be higher, maybe a little bit than that, but you can take 50%, and you can take. Obviously take 45%, on twos. I mean, or on threes. I mean, so so it's like, I mean, you take all that stuff. That's great. But that's not what's making him so valuable right now. What's making him so valuable right now is, his defensive rebounding is through the roof. And, as Kyle Smith talks about, he doesn't always get assists, but he moves the ball. Like he when the ball's in his hand, he either shoots or he, gets it to another spot where the ball can move along. He's not, the ball doesn't die right in his hands when he touches it. So, he just does so many things right. He does so many things well. He hustles on defense. He gets his hands on a ton of offensive rebounds. He may not secure the rebound, but he gets his hands on stuff. I mean, he's, 6'8", solidly built, What is he? It says he's listed at 215, right? So I mean, he's just a thick dude with broad shoulders. He mixes it up. I mean, he just is
solid athleticism. He
really
can jump pretty
good.
Well.
Yeah. He's just a really good all around player, and frankly, he is the kind of guy. If he can do that for 30 minutes a game, I mean, he can make a pretty massive difference. I mean, we look at the Stanford game that we lost. He had his worst game of the year. Maybe that's different if he doesn't. As we go down to the Bay Area this weekend, if he plays the way he's been playing, I mean, I already think we're clearly better than Stanford, but that would be the sort of thing that would have been a difference maker last time, can be a difference maker this time.
Yeah, and I think we have to mention one of the greatest possessions I've ever seen in all of my basketball watching.
Yes.
So
it had everything.
So Tyrell Roberts misses transition 3, and Andre grabs the rebound, dribbles it out, passes it around. It comes back to him. He takes a deep open 3, misses it. Offensive rebound. Back to him, open 3, misses it. It somehow ends up, Efe is laid on the ground, ends up in his lap.
Is on the ground.
Ends up in his
irony
lap.
of that is so great, too, because he's just like the best offensive rebounder on the floor, and he's actually on the ground.
And he still
and
gets
still somehow ends up in his hands.
He gives it back to Ty. Ty dishes over, third time's a charm. Yaki, and then that put him up 21. It was like... Yeah. That was like, we got it. This is it.
And some great show of emotion. I think it made it after that too.
Yeah, 37-16 at that point. They were just totally dominating, and nothing showed it more than that possession.
Yeah,
we're missing
gave
3.
Him a good fist pump down the floor.
We missed 3 damn
awesome.
shots. I don't even know if it was a missed 3 or not. I can't remember what the first shot was, but we missed 3 damn shots, and we still got 3 points out of the possession.
Yep.
Yeah. We had a beautiful possession. It's so fun. I rewinded it to watch it a couple times. Yeah. It's just exemplifies what this team is about. Honestly, hoisting 3s and getting boards, man. That's right. That's what they're doing. And if you hoist enough 3s and you get enough boards, it's going to work out. So,
that was the point at which I realized Colorado was not coming back. They just, They would have rather have been anywhere else, and you're just like, man, you can't that kind of possession. And it's not like the 3s that we were taking were super contested or something. They were not. They were all very wide open. Colorado was just kind of, and I think that's Yakumovsky missing a couple wide open, and then finally gets the third one wide open. It's it was awesome. It was fun to watch. Realize, Colorado's not, their heart's not in this, which was something that I was kind of worried about heading into the game, because they kind of blew the game against Washington. They really should have won that game on Thursday or Wednesday, whatever night they played them. And they kind of puked it up in the second half, and Tad Boyle kind of read them the riot act a little bit about, it was embarrassing in the second half or whatever. And I just kind of thought, okay, well, all right, we're going to get their best effort, and they're really going to, bring it in this game, and made me a little worried. And then they very much did not. They very much did not bring it. They never did bring it. And, at that point, you're just thinking, yeah, give me all the Ken Palm points, man. Let's go. Give them all. I want them all. So.
Oh man, they got them. I'll say we got to mention one more play from that game. I don't know what the hell Nick Clifford was thinking, trying to dunk on Efe.
No, that was a bad idea.
And just shows the shot blocking skill that Efe has. He didn't go for the highest point. Clifford tried to pull the ball back,
the rim.
Tried to tomahawk, and he just reached out and took the ball away. When he's pulling it, but his arms are so damn long, he just reaches back and swats it away. That was a number 9 play on SportsCenter, and they pronounced his name Abogadi. Not even sure how they came up with that pronunciation. F-A just commented they just can't get my name right, and it's been 2 years. But Abogadi, that is not how you pronounce. Abogidi.
Nor is there any. Are there any vowels in there that would make you think that that's how you should pronounce it? But
are you combining Mohammed Gay and Efe Abogidi, and you make an Abogadi? You know, is that what our front court is called now?
Maybe that's what it was.
Abogadi, that you combine them two. You know, it's like a power couple name.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing, obviously, you know. But yeah, so that was cool. And then after that huge weekend, obviously we love KenPom because, you know, I find it to have pretty good predictive value. They're now sitting at 35th, starting the weekend 51st. Jumped 10 spots on that Colorado win alone.
Yep.
And so that's exciting, obviously, to get 2 wins. And then in the net, they're now 37th, which is a very solid place to be. Like, if you get a little bit higher, it almost becomes, it doesn't matter what wins you have. They kind of have to put you in because of their little ranking system they have. So that's what makes, you know, they're sitting at 37th in net. That's what makes this weekend become super important because now they have shit to lose.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if you keep winning, you know, the net is, and their quad sorting system and all that is really heavily weighted toward road games. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Like to the point where it's like almost kind of insane how much more weight road games carry than home games. And so, you know, you go down there and you beat Stanford, you beat California, as you should. Great. And then, of course, after that, you know, you embark on, you know, the murderer's row, right? You got Arizona, you got Oregon, you got UCLA, you got USC. Like, that is going to be one.
I need to email Ken. He doesn't have the Oregon game in there yet.
Yeah. You know, but 3 of the 4 are on the road. I mean, it's going to be rough, but I think, you know, if you win 2 of those 4, I think you're feeling pretty good. You know, I think all of a sudden you're and assuming everything else kind of goes according to what you think, which obviously is not the best assumption, but, you know, it's all kind of right there for you. I mean, we've talked a lot about what this team needs to do to get in the tournament and, you know, how things were looking at various points. And, you know, it's kind of maintained all along is, you know, we said that, there, you know, the opportunity is going to be there. You know, they're just going to have to be able to seize it. And, you know, right now you go, well, it's there, you know, like if you can beat 2 out of 4, you know, Arizona at home, at Oregon, at UCLA, at USC, you're probably in pretty good shape. So
I think very helpful if they can get a sweep this weekend to set them up.
Oh, yeah.
That'll put them, you know, that'll keep them in that mid-30s. Well, unless they just beat the hell out of someone, you know, in that sweep, then they could jump even higher. But stay in the 30s in the net right before you're playing, you know, all those big games, then it just becomes, we just need something on our resume, and then we are in. Because if you have the ranking, because right now, you know, if we look at the women's team, they're in Charlie Cream's projections, and he underestimated them last year. He has them in the last 4 in, and they're only 60th in net because they've beaten Gonzaga at Gonzaga. They've beaten USC at USC. They've got some nice wins that, you know, they've beaten top 60 team in Oregon State. So they've got some like good wins. You know, Oregon State's another team that is trying to get in. They're on the bubble as well. So they have some really important wins that, you know, the men's team doesn't have. And so, but right now what the men's team has in their favor is they have been able to blow out some teams. And then when they lose, it's been close. So that's very favorable when you're looking at a rating system like Net or KenPom. And it's much more predictive. You know, the point margin and stuff is much more predictive of future performance than just wins and losses. Wins and losses are still the ultimate bottom line here. And that's why they were in such a bad position before this 3-game stretch of winning all 3 of these games. But they're in a better position now. They by not only winning these last 3 games and then winning the next 2 just so handily, they've put themselves in a much better position. But you just got to keep taking care of business. A sweep to Stanford would, being swept by Stanford would not look good. Although I will say these are road games, they're not going to hurt. Like a loss here doesn't hurt like it did. Like the Stanford loss at home hurts a lot more than one on the road. But I do think they would look at a sweep by Stanford as kind of like indicative of that maybe they're not the quality that we think or whatever. But the way they're playing right now, you just can hope that they can turn, still beat Cal. Cal's not playing well right now. They had some success early in the season, but they are tanking, and they're trying to ugly things up, and it is not working that well for them. They've played some good teams recently, and those teams have, beat them pretty regularly. They're on a long losing streak. That always kind of makes you worry. But maybe they'll pick off UW and they won't be on a long losing streak after that. But yeah, so they can. WSU's better than Stanford. They should have beat them the first time. They had the only way they lost them is having like an inexplicable 12-minute scoring drought. Like just the worst scoring drought. Like the worst 12 minutes of basketball they've played in their entire season. They played against Stanford. I don't see that happening again. Like Stanford's defense is not that good.
No.
They're a good defense, but they're not good enough to hold us scoreless. No defense should be good enough to hold us scoreless for 12 minutes. And their offense, they held Stanford's offense down overall pretty well. I think they could do even better. I like their chances to turn this game around. Just make more shots, a few less turnovers, and then you win. And it's not a big difference from the first game. You just have to make a couple more shots or turn the ball over a couple less times. Like that's it, and then you win the game. And they played so poorly, and it's kind of an anomaly offensively of the 5 games that surround it. That Stanford game is like an anomaly offensively for this team. And I'm going to lean on those other 5, starting in Colorado, Utah, and then also the other Cal game. I will lean on those being more indicative of what this team can do offensively, where they're over 1 point per possession for all of those games, and well over 1 point per possession for all those games. That's much more indicative of what this offense can do than 12 minutes without scoring 57 points on whatever it was, 65 possessions. That's not them. And I would be shocked if they did that again against Stanford's defense. There is Stanford is a good defense, an elite defensive rebounding team. Maybe that plays into it, but also WSU in that game, they still were the better rebounding team. They didn't rebound at they didn't get the rebounds at their typical rate, but they were still at 29%, and Stanford usually, averages 22%. So they were still pressuring Stanford in offensive rebounds more than that, and they could do that even more. And so I would be really bummed if they lose to Stanford again. Sometimes there's those teams, but Stanford just doesn't feel like a team that has our number. It just feels like a team that got really fucking lucky against us. Yeah. And I just, it'd be real frustrated if they did it again.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously agree with you. Stanford, when they went on that run, it wasn't we talked about this a couple weeks ago, right? I mean, it was like, it wasn't a run where you're like, oh my God, we're just getting overwhelmed by talent. In fact, like the fact that even though we weren't scoring, there was still a really long stretch where it was like, it took Stanford, I guess I would say it took Stanford like kind of forever to catch up. like, cause our defense was still pretty good. Offense obviously wasn't scoring at all. There was never a moment where you felt like, oh my God, this is the Avalanche, cause they're just so talented. Like that's not a thing that you felt, I think, at any point during that. So yeah, feel pretty good about going down there. Man, if you can win, if you can sweep this weekend, all of a sudden you are, 14-7 overall.
And 7-3.
You are 7-3 in the conference. And again, having done it against, not the best of competition in the conference, right? Like you will have played Arizona State and Colorado twice and Utah twice and Stanford twice and Cal twice. I mean, that's definitely not the best that the conference has to offer, but you've certainly put
some of the subtext there. Husky fans you're really excited about
the
your
Husky fans
record.
are excited about their results.
Pump
right?
the brakes, man.
Exactly.
We both have hell to come. So
yeah, but you'd certainly rather be in that position. 7-3. Okay, great, that's awesome. Heading into a stretch that's goes Arizona State, UCLA, USC, or sorry, Arizona State, Oregon, UCLA, USC.
At Oregon, at UCLA.
At Oregon,
at
UCLA, at USC.
Then at UW, actually, on the back of that.
And then at Washington, although they're
probably going to be a home game against Washington in between there, or home game against Oregon, or an away game at Oregon State, somewhere in there too.
Yeah.
I imagine.
It's a possibility you could have, Oregon State on Tuesday, and then Washington at home on Thursday, and then at Washington on Saturday or Sunday. I mean, that would not be a shock if they would do that with the schedule. But you put it all together and you go, yeah. I mean, it's you certainly want to have some wins in the bank. That'd be really nice if you can beat Stanford and Cal.
It's a big weekend.
Yeah, so you feel better about that, and then if you can somehow beat Arizona and Arizona State. Again, I know I'm getting kind of ahead of myself here, but now all of a sudden you've won, whatever that would be, 7 games in a row, and you are 9-3 overall, and then all of a sudden you're heading to UCLA and Oregon, UCLA, and USC. I keep looking at the KenPom page, which doesn't have Oregon on it, but Oregon, UCLA, USC. You win one of those games on the road and pick yourself up a quad 1 win, and all of a sudden you're probably solidly in 3rd or 4th place, and feeling pretty good about where you're at. Because I still think this is a 4-bid league, and I know that the NCAA committee technically does not look at standings, but at the same time there's also, I think, an element of, okay, this is the 4th place team in the league, and so I still think that the conference is going to get 4 bids.
Well, I think the 4th place is also important because you get a bye in the in the Pac-12 tournament. You don't have to play.
That's massive.
You don't have to play a team that would not help you in any way. That would not help you towards it. You'd get a bottom team that could potentially beat you, but also would not help you. A win doesn't really help you in your standing at all. It's one extra day you have to play in Vegas. So getting to 4th is so. If you want 4th, you got to sweep this weekend. So it's actually super fun, man. Like having actual stakes midway through the, this will put us about midway through the conference schedule, to have these stakes like this. We haven't had this in a long time. It's just been like, oh, well, if they win, it'd be fun type thing. But no, like if you win these 2 games, you're setting yourself up for success the rest of the way. If you can, you're setting yourself up for those games against those better teams to matter versus just being, interesting matchups. They become like, if we beat Arizona, we would suddenly show up in everyone's tournament projections.
Yep.
So if we win these 2 games and then beat Arizona, we will be in Joe Lunardi's tournament projection.
Yep.
So that's where the it's, but you can't do it without stacking the wins that you should have, and so which we have not done for most of the season. We have not stacked wins that we needed, but it's still there for them. It's still there for the men's basketball team, and so I'm excited. should be a fun and or frustrating weekend. I'm very nervous for it. I'm no longer excited to watch Cougar basketball. I'm nervous again. It sucks. I just said I'm excited.
It's like the best feeling and the worst feeling, right? Like you're like, yes, there are stakes. Oh shit, there are stakes. Like it's different. I've just resolved to enjoy it, right? Like I've just
just got to enjoy it.
I think I've said this on the show before, but maybe I haven't. I don't know. But back in 2008, 2007, 2008, the second Tony Bennett's second season, coming off the season before, there were expectations, right? And you're like, I want the team to be, whatever it is, like, and so I just remember like watching all the games and just being like every game wasn't just enjoying the game for what it was. Every game was thinking about, okay, what does this do to our seeding? What is this going to mean come March? And it was very late in the season before I finally just went, oh my God, why am I not just enjoying this? Because this probably isn't going to last forever. And shockingly, it didn't last forever. And I was like, why didn't I enjoy it as much as I could when it was happening? So I've really resolved to just enjoy, what the team is doing, enjoy how they're performing, just enjoy it for the process that it is. And, it's try not to get too bummed out when the results aren't great. And also just enjoy the hell out of the games that do turn out great, like that Colorado game. Just trying to it sounds super corny, but I'm just kind of trying to be in the moment and enjoy the process and enjoy the fact that, there are so many things about this team that we just have not experienced in a long time. And, I just try not to let, any level of disappointment over what I hoped they would be, overshadow what they actually are. And what they actually are is, a team that's still figuring it out, a team that's still really talented, and a team that still has, a massive, massive opportunity in front of them that, I believe they can seize. Maybe they won't, but I believe they can. And, it's going to be real fun to kind of go through this journey with them.
Yeah. And, absolutely. And what's even more fun is we got two teams that are kind of in the same position right now. They can play themselves into the tournament. They have big games every single week. And this week, WSU women's team really put themselves into the tournament conversation with the 3 wins that they got, starting with Oregon State. That was really the biggest game of the week. These are 2 bubble teams, and to beat the other bubble team and to beat them fairly decent, it wasn't even, this was finally a game where they didn't start out so poorly and then had to, recover from a hole. They had the lead from the start. They extended it late. They were able to, just to really be in control against another, equally matched good team. And that was really good to see. They've now they've been rolling over Oregon State. They beat them last year too on the road. And, they're 2 programs that are kind of in similar places at the moment. And so it's cool to, see them beat them. Really stands out from that Oregon State game and is now starting to become, a regular thing is Johanna Tadar is really asserting herself as that second scorer on the team that we hoped she would be this year. And she, she had 17 in this game on 9 shots, 3 steals. She's always been a good defensive player. 17 assists, 5 assists, 3 steals, just all around game. Because Charlize had one of her worst games of her career, especially non-Stanford edition. 3 of 13, 9 points. That's a low amount of, she was in foul trouble in and out. She only played 32 minutes, which 32 is a lot, but for her, that's about 6 to 8 less than she normally plays. So, to have Yo come in and have such a huge game and lift the team, and then just balance. Crystal had 11, Bella had 11, Ula had 11. So that was the big win. You know, I don't know if you got to watch any of it, Jeff, but it was really cool just to see them kind of assert themselves in a game that was hugely important for both teams.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch it all that closely, but the result obviously huge. Which, you know, it was one of those games where you go, yeah, okay, good. That's a really good win. That's really nice. And also, if they screw it up against Washington, it will be meaningless. And so that was kind of my one eye toward toward the double. It wasn't really a double header, but you know what I mean, like the 2-game home and road back to back against Washington. Thinking, you know, it was a little bit more angst than anything else. You know, knowing that a loss to Washington is actually really damaging, and they did their best in the first game to make it as anxious as possible, but. But they pulled it out. They pulled it out. It was awesome.
So yeah, that Friday game was, I mean, it's fun to blow out the Huskies, but to rip their hearts out is even better, because how often have they done that to us across all sports? Came back, Crystal and Johanna played 45 minutes in this game. They did not start well. Had to, come back to take a halftime lead. They had to have a real good second quarter, and then UW just would not miss in the third quarter. 23 points. By mid-fourth quarter, WSU's down by 9. And then with when WC's trailing late, with I think it was 3 minutes left, Charlize fouls out.
Yeah, and, that was the point at
after
which
she had so she missed a couple free throws that could have tied it, and then she fouls out. So you're like, oh man, Ula Matuga, man, she's been shooting lights out.
Yes,
but like shot of the year. I mean, well, yeah. Followed by what happened in the next game, but clutch shot of the year. Buried a 3 with 13 seconds left to tie the game, send it into overtime, and then they go into overtime, and without Charlize, also UW had fouled out Nancy Mulkey, their massive 6'9" center, and so they didn't have her. They also didn't have Trinity Oliver. So they were without some of their players. The backup to Nancy Mulkey, who is Darcy Reese, who's normally a very good free throw shooter. Shout out to her, 1 of 6. Really, it helped the. We should send
her a gift basket. Or something.
So she's normally like a 75% free throw shooter. She went 1 of 6. Was looking terrible out there. I'm surprised to see that she actually went 3 or 4 from the floor. So and only 2 turnovers, but she only played 12 minutes. She had 2 turnovers. So they came back, and without Charlize, were able to win in the score 10 points in the 5-minute overtime, which is better than the rate they were scoring in the rest of the game. So Ula making plays. Johanna only took 8 shots in this game, which is crazy. It was a slow-paced game. UW slows the game down quite a bit. Yes, they do. Bella had a just real bad game, but she came up with some big free throws in the overtime. Went 4 of 4, but she was 2 of 12 from the field. Couldn't buy a bucket, but she was playing great defense. That's been and she actually had a great block where it bounced off a UW player, and then they called it out on when WSU was trying to come back in the fourth. They called it out on Bella, and it very clearly hit off, the UW player on the replay. And the funny thing is, I saw a highlight package from Pac-12, and it was the weirdest highlight package I've ever seen. They just showed a bunch of random shots from like the first quarter, and then they showed this block that Bella did, and then they showed the replay of it being called wrong, and then that was the end of the highlight. They didn't show Ula's shot to tie the game. They didn't show anything from overtime.
Yeah.
So the game ended right there. So that was huge to not have that game ruin your season by losing UW, who is, they're like in, 100 plus. They're not as bad as they were last year, but they're not.
They're still bad.
I mean, but they're still like last year they were like in the 200s in
yes.
Net, but now they're like 100. They're like around 100. So they're just they're not. But it would have been damaging to lose them at home.
Yes.
And then you come back on Sunday.
Tell me more about that game, Craig.
Yeah, so I was well, I showed up about mid-second quarter, I'll tell you. So we went.
I did not know this.
We went, up to brunch in Wallingford, and it was me and my friend Marnie, and me and my two kids. My friend Amanda was working. My friend Marnie and her two kids, and then my sister and my niece. And so we were rolling deep with a lot of kids, and we went to brunch, and we got seated right away. So we were excited. We got there about 10:15, so we're like plenty of time. We're in Wallingford. It's only like 10 minutes to go park and get into the stadium or get into the arena. So we order our food, and we probably get our food around 11:20. And having to, shout out to our kids. They didn't get too restless waiting for that food. But kids don't eat that fast. So we had to kind of wait for them. So we showed up. I get a text from my friends. Why aren't you here yet? Because right when Johanna hits the, almost 50-footer at the buzzer in the first quarter.
Yep.
To cap the first quarter, which really is the shot of the year. That's crazy. So I missed that in person. Thank you. I love Blue Star in Wallingford. I know everyone's understaffed now, so I hold no ill will. But that was probably my mistake by going to a brunch place on Sunday and expecting to get fast service. But so I missed that. But once I got in, we had, I had some, friends. Brad and Brian were there, and and then Zane was there with his kids, and they had some other kids. I don't know where all these kids were. Brad and Brian said they'd never been around so many kids because there was about 10 kids surrounding them. But we had a nice
they are all childless, so
we had a nice little Coug section up where we were. There was some other Coug sections around. But yeah, so that, once WSU went on that run to end the game, I think UW was up like 35-34. And then, WSU ends up winning 57-43. So it was just so much fun because it was just, there's nothing like a basketball run, man. When you're on, when you're in the other team's arena and your team is running, because it's just good thing after good thing after good thing, and they happen because basketball is so back and forth. They happen in such rapid pace, and the refs weren't calling many fouls. There wasn't a lot of out of bounds plays. Like, this game was going so quickly, so the good thing after good thing after good thing was happening, and it was so fun. We were hamming it up, Dubs down, screaming and yelling. I screamed myself hoarse. I was hoarse the rest of the night. It was so fun to watch. So now I've went to 3 games at UW in this school year. I went to the soccer game where they totally obliterated them 4-1 and got up 4-0 at one point.
Yeah.
Or 3, and then the football game where they totally obliterated them. And then this basketball game where they just go on this run to end the game to just break their spirit. It's so fun.
You have to go to all the games now.
Apparently,
them's the rules.
Yeah. I plan on going to the UW game in February. The end of February. The UW men's game. So hopefully I can keep my perfect record. I feel like I got to go to baseball.
I might actually have to break. I might have to break my
Or maybe you should.
Maybe I shouldn't. I don't know, man. Am I playing with fire here if I decide to go to that game?
I don't know, but
I'm not.
Last
sure.
time I went to UW for a men's hoops game was the last time we were allowed. It was right when COVID was about to hit. I think we were like talking about it when we were at the game. Was that 2020 game, and that was fun. Bonton and Noah hamming it up. CJ, so that was fun. Was CJ? No. Oh yeah, that was CJ's last year. That was fun. We had a nice Cougar crowd for that too. It's so much fun to win at UW, especially beating the shit out of UW. Like, it's so much fun. So, and then to see, the team, sing the fight song at the end, and they're facing us up in but there's the Coug fans below us. We're up higher, and but they see us, they're pointing to us, and like we're all singing the fight song. It's super fun, and like it's just so fun to do it in that place. Like, you guys are so fucking arrogant, and you just don't even think we're a rivalry. We're little brother. Well, guess what? In almost every sport, we've been kicking your ass for this entire school year.
We are on the cusp of a second consecutive Boeing Apple Cup Series trophy.
And honestly, it's so much sweeter when there's a football win in there.
Yes. I mean, we're really close to our second consecutive win.
I think Sherwood did the math.
Yes, he did.
That if we win, if we sweep the basketball game,
if we sweep the men's basketball games, it's over.
It's over. Baseball doesn't even matter. Is there like track? Do we play them in track too?
Yes.
So
there's a track component, and so
in tennis, I'm sure I don't think we've played them in tennis yet, or have we? I don't. In rowing, I think there's rowing, but so all those spring sports, we'd already have it wrapped up if we can sweep them in basketball.
Won't matter. And
it even matter, like, even if there's just one, if we don't make up one of the games, I think we still clinch it. So, fuck you, UW. Yeah, you
absolutely
fucking arrogant assholes.
Every day of the week.
Oh my God. It's so like I don't know, like, I feel like the Dubs down is like a pretty new thing, but it's fun. We should always do it. It's amazing. Like, thank you, youths, or whoever came up with it. There's a picture of Bella from the game on Friday, just like screaming with her Dubs down. Like, it's such a great picture. I love how the teams embrace it. It just shows like this is important. Like, beating this team is important.
Yeah,
and to beat UW twice in 3 days. I can't. That must have been a great feeling for them, because it was a great feeling for me, and it was fun to see it in person, and fun to like take my daughter to a game again, and just take her to any games, and so that's both my daughters, I guess, but the 11-month-old isn't really aware of what's going on, but.
Yeah,
but I there was some times where, like, what have I done? Because she saw Harry the Husky and she was like, "Oh, look!" And I was like, "No, he's the bad one."
No, bad.
And then it of course had to be like little girl cheerleader day, so it's like all the little girls, and she's just like, "Oh, look at that!" I'm like, "Oh, but they're wearing purple. No. Purple's bad.
Purple's gross."
Yeah. I texted Amanda. I'm like, "I think I've made a mistake." But then the Cougs won, and like they were dominating at the end, and she saw how happy Dad was. We were the red team, as she said. We're the red team. She's like, "Which team? Are we the red team?" Yes, we're the red team. We can't get into crimson. Quite. It's too early. Red is good enough.
Yes.
But that's confusing to her, because then if we played at home, we'd be the white team, and then or the anthracite / gray team. So that'd be confusing. So I have to kind of, when she sees, but I've noticed she pays attention on TV sometimes now too. She actually sees what's going on. She still has no idea what's going on, but I think she knows that when Daddy's happy, something good happened. So And when Daddy's mad, something bad happened. So yeah, that was cool. And the women's team is 60th in net, which is obviously not nearly as good as the men's, but also they probably are in a better place than the men are because of the win over Gonzaga at Gonzaga, the win over USC at USC. Those are both, I think, quad 1 wins. And those quad 1 wins are like gold. And let's see, they're going at the mountains this week. Let me see real quick what, so Colorado, that's a tough one. They're 34. So that's not really a loss that can hurt you, but it's a win that could help you. And then, Utah, is not good. Utah's even better. They are, so yeah, this is a tough weekend. So you got 18th in net and 34th in net. So not a weekend that will necessarily like derail your hopes. But if you can get one, and they got Colorado last year, and that turned out to be one of the wins that got them into the tournament. So if they can get one of two this weekend, like they're going to be in a very good place.
Yep. And at the risk of reading too much into any one individual result, like that first win against Washington, the one in Pullman, I don't know, man. It kind of felt like a turning point to me.
Yeah.
Thinking about their season. And I mean, they just, have relied so heavily on Charlize, right? Like they are just like anytime they need a bucket, anytime they need someone to break a streak, and really they look to her, right? For good reason, because she's incredible. But with her fouling out, it was like, okay, well, what's going to happen here? And you mentioned, Tadair and how much she has sort of, come around as another reliable scoring option. You mentioned Ula, who has added a 3-point shot that's, a true weapon, right? Like she is now able to space the floor and punish teams from beyond the 3-point line in a way she wasn't able to last year. And I know they got a healthy assist from Washington with the missed free throws. So, whatever, but
free throws are part of the game.
They indeed they are. And, we were able to take advantage of it when Washington missed their free throws. Like Washington had a ton of rebounds, right? They had, I think 18, right? Offensive rebounds in that first game.
And they did not do that.
But, we were able to get, some rebounds when it mattered. We were able to get it to overtime. All of that played without, Charlize, and, to be able to come out with the win again, we're fully acknowledging Washington isn't that good, but it's a rivalry game. They're fired up. They're trying to get a win to turn their season around. And, you do it without your best player. It just sort of felt like they were like, yeah, we can do this. And then, that confidence carried over into Saturday. I mean, Sunday, they were, really threatening to run away with it in the first half. And then Washington kind of closed on a run at the end of the second quarter that made it, that made it closer than it was. But in the second half, they pulled away, and it was clear who the better team was. And so we'll see how much that plays in when they start, taking on some of the upper echelon teams in the conference. But getting these 3 wins in a row is real nice. There is some value in separating yourself from the other contenders, not necessarily if you're one of the best in the league, but to feel like, okay, we are at least separated from them. Colorado was one of those games for the men where it was like, okay, the resumes at this point aren't all that different. So then you go out and beat the shit out of them by 30 points. It's like, okay, all right. It's like, well, I think now we have a pretty good sense of which of these two teams is better. And, I think that does matter. And so to beat Oregon State and then, sweep Washington, I think just says, okay, this is the level we're on. And, those are the kinds of things that I think the committee looks at. They look for ways to, distinguish you from other teams. And,
yep.
I think that was a great weekend for both squads this weekend.
Yeah. And then hopefully for, the women, they get that Oregon game rescheduled at home. That could be a big opportunity. Oregon is, I think number 9 in net. So, that's just like a signature win opportunity. So hopefully they can get that rescheduled for them. So they have these this weekend. A lot of quad one opportunities. Colorado, Utah, if they can get the Oregon game at home rescheduled. Arizona coming to WSU. Arizona State's another bubble team is coming to WSU. UCLA is a bubble team coming to WSU. USC is a top 50-ish team coming to WSU. So they have a lot. Then they play at Stanford. That's an L until further notice. But like they're if they're going to have a ton of opportunities to build their resume in these next few weeks, much like the men, both teams. So this February, I saw Bryce said something to me like, this is either going to be the best month of my life or I'm going to be super miserable because, it's, obviously Bryce works for the team and then obviously huge men's team fan. But like he works for the women's team, huge men's team fan. But like, so both of our basketball teams have huge opportunities this month coming up that are literally going to make or break their season, and hopefully it's fun, like because that's what we're looking at for the next 4 weeks. That is just big ass game after big ass game after big ass game, and if we can rack up some wins, they'll be playing in the tournament. So
yeah, this is what you want, right?
Yeah, shit, dude. We're at an hour and 50 minutes almost. Yeah, so I guess that's as time as any to say, hey, if you want to follow Jeff on Twitter, he's at Pod versus Everyone. Me, I'm at the Craig Powers, at Craig W. Powers on Instagram. Threw a Dubs Down photo on there for you if you want to see that.
Yeah. Yes, you did.
And then what do you use? Sarah's account or something? How'd you see it, Jeff? Do you have an account? I don't even know.
I do, but I don't visit it very often. Sarah usually, yes. Sarah's usually the one to let me know that something has happened. Oh, look, Craig has posted whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, look at that. So that's usually how it goes.
We have an email. It is podcastversuseveryone@gmail.com. If you have questions, we got a really good question from Ben. And Ben, we are going to do that. The snake draft of the teams. We will do that, but we obviously don't have time today to do that. So yeah, send us questions. We'll answer them. And then, I'll say, go Cougs.
Yep. Go Cougs, Craig. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
And get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated.